How's it going, everybody? That's a new introduction. I'm gonna try to use it as many times as possible because now I'm getting kind of tired of my opening line. Who knows? I don't even know. But anyways, welcome guys to yet again another review from me about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And this week it is for the episode entitled Nothing Personal. And of course, spoilers for the episode are going to be following in this video. So if you have not caught up with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., then what are you doing here? Go watch it, come back, and you can watch freely. And basically, Nothing Personal revolves all around Ward's big secret that he is Hydra. And basically what this episode is all about is all of the reveals that happen because of that. And the thing is that, with the exception of the very last one at the end, all of the reveals in this episode are I like to call third-person reveals. I know that there's a certain term. I can't remember what it's called, but there's a certain term where the audience or the viewer knows something that a particular character doesn't, and you know what is going on, but the character doesn't. I can't remember what the terminology for that is. And there's another one for things that not only does the character not know, but you don't know either. You're right there with the character in terms of not knowing what's going on. There's different terms for these two particular things, but I can't remember what they are. But for now, I'm just gonna go ahead and call them third-person reveals, in which the characters find things out that me, as well as various people, as viewers, already knew, in which Ward is Hydra, Garrett is still alive, Hand is now dead, that kind of thing. Characters finally figure this stuff out, and the first and the bigger one would have to be the Coulson, as well as the rest of his team, finally figuring out that Ward is Hydra. And wow, was I not expecting that reaction from Fitz. Fitz, out of all the people there, I was expecting Coulson to have this kind of reaction, but it ended up being Fitz who just flipped out. And it does kind of make sense, considering that Fitz, out of all of them, Fitz is the one whose emotions are just a little too, I don't want to say wild or loose, but they're just a little too emotive, so to speak. I mean, he's the one who's got feelings for Simmons, even though they kind of made them out to be like brother and sister at the beginning of the season. But hey, that's how things start out, and you know, things change over time. But he was also the one who started to break down a little bit when he thought that he was gonna die in that scene, in that episode where Garrett finally reveals himself as being a Hydra, and he says he's gonna kill the rest of them and keep Fitz alive, but shoot him in the kneecaps. He started to break down there, so it kind of makes sense. Out of all the characters in the team, he was the one to have the strongest reaction, because there were scenes throughout the season where he looked up to Ward as a big brother, so it kind of hit him pretty hard. And so his reaction, though very unexpected, makes sense. The other big reveal would be S.H.I.E.L.D. letting it be known that she knows that Ward is Hydra, and basically concocted this plan all along to get him trapped. And I gotta be honest, I wasn't expecting that to happen so early in the episode. I was hoping for something, well, I was expecting something to happen either later on at the very end of this episode or something earlier in the next penultimate episode. But I do give him credit for not dragging that out too long, and her just finally saying, hey, I'm gonna play the moves on this guy. However, and this is one of my complaints, I feel like out of all the people that she could have alerted through her hacking skills, I mean, she's supposed to be very tech savvy, and she's supposed to be a genius at not only hacking but getting the attention of people, of any kind of people. Out of all the people, you decide to alert the town police. Like, could you have not alerted the FBI or the military or somebody who would not make Ward look like a superhero in comparison? Because as soon as those cops rolled in, I'm like, I'm gonna put everyday cops against this guy who's like a special agent, and he can take. You saw him take down those people in that hallway, in that episode. I'm sure in this universe where hacking is very easy for S.H.I.E.L.D., she could have figured out a way to contact somebody who can definitely put Ward down, whether it be the FBI or the CIA. But the town police? And I guess I'll use that as my segue to what I consider to be my biggest complaint with this episode, and what makes me feel that this is probably the weakest episode so far since the big Hydra reveal, because it's been going down in quality since then, and I do think this is the one that finally dropped a little notch under the momentum that the season has been building up. Even though it still has it, and I still like the episode, I think this was the biggest factor in helping me decide that, and that is that so much happens in this episode in terms of things that could have been spread out across at least 2 episodes, things that could have waited until next week's. They all happen in this one. The rest of the team, Coulson's team, figures out that Ward is Hydra. Awesome. And within the exact same episode, they rescue Sky, with Coulson going in there by himself and getting himself and Sky out of there without a scratch. Well, without a scratch on them. There's scratches on his beloved Lola, but that's besides the point. That could have been saved for the next week's episode. In fact, I thought the episode was going to end when Coulson snuck onto the bus, which I now know that's what the plane is called, the bus. And right when it cuts to commercial, I thought that was actually going to be the end. But then it comes back, and Coulson's in there, and I'm like, he's going to take these 2 guys out by himself, and sure enough, he kind of does. Well, he takes on Deathlock mostly, but... And speaking of Deathlock, I thought that he was integrated in this episode rather well. I will say that. I did think that his return to the show in this episode not only did make sense, but his presence was felt a lot more. He definitely felt like this guy that could be a way bigger threat than Ward, because Ward doesn't have something in him that's literally making him tick. But Coulson and Sky escape, and they're back to being together. May is back on the team and also provides this information that she gathered in such a very quick instance. I mean, at the beginning of the episode where she confronts Maria Hill and she tells what Nick Fury directly told her, and because of the way that it was, he said it in such a riddled fashion, like a riddle. May figured that, hey, she's going to have to do a little bit of investigation in order to figure out what he meant by that, and in just one scene she solves it. It just puts in the hard drive, the USB drive, and poof, there it is, and she delivers that information to Coulson by the end of the episode. And I think that's something that could have been saved for next week's episode. And I just feel like they just jammed too much in here that could have spanned over 2 episodes, and because of that, not only did it lost a little bit of its momentum, but also in terms of the pacing of the episode, it felt just a little too rushed for my sake. And I have accepted the fact that this is not going to happen for the remainder of the season, which is literally just 2 episodes. So I'm not going to complain about this anymore, but I'm just going to do it just one more time, and that is the actor, I can't remember his name, but the actor who plays Triplet. I'm officially done with this, but this in this episode, once again, he's having these scenes where he's supposed to emote just a little bit more, especially when he's telling Fitz how he felt when he found out that Garrett ended up being Hydra, and trying to relate to how Fitz is feeling here when he finds out that Ward is Hydra. You know, you have to emote just a little bit more when you're delivering that line, because you're thinking back to the memory of finding out that Garrett, this guy you looked up to, ended up being a bad guy. Instead of having that look on your face like, I know exactly how you feel. Hey, baby. You want some snacks? Instead of being distraught by his superior officer being Hydra, he looks more like he is bummed by not receiving something in the mail that he was expecting. But not all of the episode is bad. There were certain things scattered here and there that I thought were really good. I think that some of the things that were going on between Coulson, Maria Hill, who has Cobie Smulders returning in this episode, which was good to see her. I like seeing Cobie Smulders in this role, and I'm welcome to seeing her return in this episode. But never did I feel like she was immensely important. Never did I feel like she needed to come back. It felt almost like she just came back to have Coulson confront Ward at the end, somewhat, and propel things into motion for May's investigation. It just felt like she was just a middleman or middlewoman, more so than an actual important part of the plot. But anyways, there were things that I did like about this episode. I liked the espionage type of atmosphere between the things that were happening with Coulson and Maria Hill, and then later on with May. I think that they're keeping intact about the bigger picture that's going on, about S.H.I.E.L.D. being no more, and now Hydra infesting throughout the world. You know, they haven't completely conquered, but they're out there. Like Coulson has said before, they're out there, and so something needs to happen about that. And so that effect is still being felt. And I think it's kind of interesting how she keeps reiterating that Nick Fury is dead, even though we know for a fact that she knows that that's not true. And I dig the subtle, well, not so subtle, but I guess the rather passing references to the Avengers in this episode to make the universe feel connected, especially with that reveal at the end that I feel was a very nice conversation starter. It was something that I could literally theorize about where these things are going to go. And there's also other things that I could theorize about this episode. But that thing at the end about Coulson, the reveal that Coulson, and not only is it a reveal to Coulson himself, but also to us as the viewers, unlike the other reveals, is that Coulson had to do with the Tahiti project. And in fact, he was overseeing the project based on the dialogue they had in that webcam scene. He was very involved with the Tahiti project, and that was something that was wiped away from his brain. And so the question still remains, who actually went ahead and took Coulson and put him in there? Could it have been Nick Fury? Could it have been somebody else? You know, it's something to theorize and to really think about. And I think that last scene really did a good job at doing that, because it led me to think about it an awful lot. And something else to think about would have to be Ward and Deathlock coming together for a somewhat common purpose, but for different intentions. You got Deathlock trying to save his son, whereas Ward seemingly still has feelings for Skye, which I gotta be honest, I don't buy. I'd rather just have Ward be a flat-out bad guy, which I'm really hoping that turns out to be the case. Like, hey, he really didn't have any feelings, and he was just trying to manipulate Skye. And because of that, that kind of made Skye a little bit more likable, because she sees through that. She's done with Ward. But because she doesn't want to be a murderer, she doesn't have him be killed later on when Deathlock threatens his life in order to try to get Skye to unlock the hard drive, which led to what I thought was one of the best scenes in the season so far, and definitely a scene that I know for a fact Joss Whedon wrote, where Deathlock tells Ward to go kickstart the bus, and Ward's like, I can barely stand, and Deathlock flips on his gadgetry, and now Ward's all filled with adrenaline, and he's like, all better. That was just great. It literally made me laugh out loud. And I think Chloe Bennett as Skye and Brett Dalton as Ward really shine in this episode with their performance, especially when they had that one scene where they're just finally confronting each other about their true intentions. Ward being Hydra, and Skye finally figuring out and confronting him and saying, hey, WTF, dude. So I like the episode, but I definitely think that due to its rather strong pacing issues, by having just a little too much happen in this episode, I do feel like it's the weakest one since the Hydra reveal, and because of that, I will have to give it a 7 out of 10. It's no longer an 8 out of 10 streak, but I will say that it's a still somewhat strong episode. I still liked it, and I'm still eager to see what plays out in these remaining 2 episodes, which I do believe will be some form of a confrontation between Garrett, Coulson, and their loyal teams. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys thought of Nothing Personal, and I'll see you guys next week with my review of the penultimate episode for Season 1 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'll see you then.